Welcome to the second video for special products of binomials. This is for section 7.8, and today we are going to talk about the difference of squares. So let's move on here. Here we go, difference of squares. Essentially, we are going to create the generalization and then also practice it with real problems. Okay, so our generalization, we are going to start out with a plus b times a minus b. The biggest thing here is we have this plus sign versus a minus sign. So that is the biggest difference between this. Before we were doing situations where we had a plus b times a plus b or a minus b times a minus b. And we got all sorts of interesting things out of that, and we had a middle term that was 2ab, and we had to deal with that. But in this case, you'll find that this is the coolest roadmap of all because there's less work involved. It's kind of cool. But you have to make sure whatever things you are doing or whatever problems you're doing, they have this difference happening, this plus versus minus. That's the most important part. So let's actually do some of this math work. I'm going to erase some of this so we can actually see what's going on. So we have a plus b times a minus b. Let's FOIL this out to see what happens. So a times a is our first term, so a squared. Then after that, we have a times a negative b, which is negative ab. We then have an inside term that we have to multiply, a or b times a, which is ends up being positive ab, b times a times b. It doesn't matter, just as long as they're both multiplying each other. And then the last one, b times a negative b. So a positive times a negative, that'll get us a negative. But b times b, that'll be b squared. Now, today in class, a few people were looking at this and saying like, oh, I see that this is just going to cancel out. I have minus ab plus ab. Yeah, that's going to cancel out and become 0. So really all we have is a squared and minus b squared. From all of this work up here, a plus b times a minus b, all we have to worry about is squaring our a term and subtracting our squared b term from that. So let's practice one problem so we can see how this works. Here we go. Here's our practice problem. We have x plus 6 times x minus 6. Let's start out. Let's do our FOIL. So first term, x times x is x squared. Our outside term, x times a negative 6, negative 6x. Our inside term, 6 times x, is positive 6x. And our last terms, 6 times a negative 6 equals a negative 36. From there, we can combine like terms. Negative 6x plus a positive 6x, that's going to cancel to a 0. So we just have essentially x squared minus 36. Awesome. Let's make sure this matches with our roadmap that we've already created. So let's look over here. We have the same sort of thing going on. We have our a squared terms. Our a squared term in this case was an x. That is our a. And then we also have our b term right here. And if you notice, we also have a minus sign. Everything worked out. Our a term was an x, our b term was a 6. We subtracted the two of them after we squared them, and we got our final answer. So let's do one last problem and use this roadmap, and then we'll check our work with the roadmap as well, or with FOIL. So let's start out here. We have x squared plus 2x times x squared minus 2x. To start out with, x squared times x squared, that's x to the 4th. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 x's that we're dealing with. Then we're doing our outside terms, x squared minus, or times a negative 2y, so we have negative, well, actually, I'm going to stop us right here. Let's actually make the roadmap first and see how this works. So let's identify our a term. Our a term is x squared. Our b term is 2y. And then our roadmap tells us that we're going to essentially say a squared minus b squared. So x squared squared, x squared squared is what we're going to have, minus 2y squared is what we're going to end up having. X squared squared, power to a power property tells us that it's going to be x to the fourth. And our b term, we have 2 squared, which is 4, and y squared. So that is going to be our final answer. Let's see if we get that. So now let's go back to our equation here, and we are on our second step, so we are on that outside step. And so doing that outside step, we have x squared times a negative 2y, so we end up getting negative 2x squared y, or we could rewrite that as saying negative 2yx squared. It doesn't matter, either one works. And then we have, oops, wrong one. Shouldn't have done that one first. We have then our inside term, which is plus 2x squared y, essentially. And then our last term, 2y times 2y, or 2y times a negative 2y is negative 2, whoops, 2 times 2 is 4. 2y times a negative 2y is 4y squared. So then from there, let's combine like terms. Here we go, negative 2xy plus 2xy, that becomes 0. So then all we have left is x to the fourth minus 4y squared. So there we go. Same answer, same equation, and we got it. Hope this helps, and I hope this finds you all well. Good luck with the homework. Thank you.